Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Roboform Revisited. This will actually be the fourth webinar that we've done on Roboform. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Roboform Revisited. And this will actually be the second time we've done this one. I tried to do this webinar last week, and we had a ton of technical problems, and I wound up deleting the entire recording because it was just awful. Most people couldn't get logged in, and it went downhill from there. But we're going to try again today. So Roboform Revisited, we're going to take a look at some things in Roboform. If you don't already have Roboform, one way to purchase it would be to go to our website, 4kcc.com. And at the menu at the top where it says merchandise, you can click that drop down menu, and then you can click on computer related products we recommend. And down under software in the first row, you'll see Roboform. And if you click there, you can go ahead and purchase Roboform right there through our website. All right, so if you don't have it, that's one way of getting it. If you already have it, that's great. And we're going to try to take a look at some ways that you can use it. If you don't have it, by the way, this is a form that comes up and you can select your license. You can do individual, family, or for business. You can pick 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. And of course, the more you pick, the more you save. All right, so what does Roboform work with? What platforms? It works now with Microsoft Edge. And it works with Firefox and Google Chrome and Safari. Um, it also works on the Apple operating system. Okay, so that's the platforms that it works with. All right, we're just checking because one or two people are saying they are not hearing. So we're taking a look at that to see if there's some issue there. So we're taking a look at that to see if there's some issue there. Okay, hopefully everyone can hear now. So the platforms, it works with Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Google Chrome, Opera, Safari. It works on the Android. It works on Apple and it works on the Android. It works on All right, we're going to try to continue. All right, we're going to try to continue. Okay, so that's what it works with. We're just going to move on here and hope that it turns out okay. Using Roboform, when you first install it, you're going to be asked to create a master password. And I can't emphasize enough that this master password is so important that you make it like just the strongest password you can make. Because don't forget, it's going to be protecting all of your other passwords. And you'll see that when I show you my Roboform, how many I have, and you understand that if someone can break into your Roboform by getting your master password, they can have access to everything that you do, everything you're protecting. So this can't be some rinky-dink password, like Miser1. It has to be a good, strong password, which we, of course, teach all the time how to create those passwords. Okay, so after you make a password, let's say after you hear me, you say, okay, the password is not strong enough. John has convinced me that I have too easy a password. So what you want to do is go in and change the password. And the way you do that is to go into Roboform and get that drop-down menu. Go to Options, which you see highlighted on the screen, or you will anyway when it catches up. And then when the next window opens on the left-hand side, you click on Security, and you'll then see on the right, Change Master Password. So that's exactly what you want to do. You want to click on that and change the master password. Now, there will be a wizard that comes up after that. We're not going to walk through that today, but that's what you'll use. And just go ahead and change and put a good secure password in. Now, again, Roboform works with all kinds of platforms. And one of the things that's really great is there were two areas that Roboform was a little weak in the beginning, and that was with Microsoft Edge and also on the iPhone. I'm happy to say that they have improved that, and it's working very well now. So we're going to take a look at Roboform, both on the iPhone and in Microsoft Edge, and then we'll look at it some other places. And in a minute, you should be able to see the iPhone, hopefully. And hang on just a second here. All right. And now you should be able to see my iPhone. And I'm going to go to my Roboform app, which is on my last menu. And I'm going to open that so you can see it. Now, I'm using an iPhone X or 10, whichever you want to look at it. So it recognizes my face to unlock. Otherwise, you might have to put your master password in, which has to be very secure. And you can see that on the what they call the home page, I have a lot of the shortcuts that I normally use. And I could simply click on one of those and either on the phone log in directly, or if I needed the password or something for some other device, I could click on and get the password just on the phone. So as an example, I'm going to click on Adobe, and you can see that it took me to Adobe, but it's asking for the password, which I could then fill in from Roboform. But I really don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to log in for something else. So I'm going to search Adobe. And now you'll see at the top that where I have Adobe, on the right-hand side, there's a little I. And that, of course, stands for information. If I click on that, now I see my Adobe username and my password. Now the password is hidden so you can't see it, but it doesn't matter. Just in case for all of you, I'm going to change the password later. So I'm going to just show it so you can see the password. And now if I was trying to log into Adobe on something else and I couldn't remember the password, I could simply open it here on the iPhone and look up the password and then type it in on another device. So that's how that works. And as I said, I've just revealed my password, so I can edit that and go in and change the password, which I will do later. Another thing on the app, I can click on when I'm on the home page, you'll see logins at the top. I can click on that, and here are all my logins that I have in Roboform, and you can see there's a ton of them. Okay, so that's what I'm protecting with my master password. So can you understand why the master password needs to be strong? All right, so that's that. I'm going to get out of that for right now and go off of the phone and back to my computer. And I'm going to open Microsoft Edge. And when Microsoft Edge first came out with Windows 10, it would not allow any add-ons or extensions. Then they allowed a few. Roboform was allowed in the second release, but it did not work well at all. And I just refused to use it. It was awful. But Roboform has finally caught up. And now in Edge, Roboform works pretty much the same as it does in every other browser. I have my logins. And when I click on that, you'll see that I have 3 pages of logins. So there are a lot of logins in Roboform. All right. And of course, now in Edge, it works pretty much the same. And, I can just go to Roboform in Edge and do the normal things that I do in Roboform. So if you had Roboform before, I know some people complained that it didn't work well in Edge and they were discouraged. Don't be discouraged. It works really well on Edge now. And if you were using it in some other browser, you won't have any trouble using it in Microsoft Edge. I am going to open Google Chrome, and I'm going to show you that, again, my Roboform is in the upper right-hand corner. And when I click on it, it doesn't look really any different than it did in Edge now. And there's lots of things that you can do here in Roboform. Aside from logins, you can edit a login. So for instance, I told you that I had just shown you my Adobe login, and I'll show it to you here again. And you saw the password, and I'll change it again now so no one decides to log into my Adobe account. But what I would do is I would click the little pencil, which allows me to edit it, and I can take the password out of there, and I can put in a new password. Now, let me back up here. Okay, and now I can go up. There's a little icon for the save. I can save it. Now, what you have to understand is I only saved it in Roboform. I haven't saved it in Adobe, which is where I actually have to change it. So I will now, I would go to Adobe a little bit later and I'll go in and change the password to what I just made it in Roboform. Now that's a manual way to change a password. Another way to change a password is to actually go to the site and change the password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Adobe. And when I get to Adobe, I can go up and you see I'm already logged in. So I can go to my Adobe account. Of course, I'm logged in with the old password. Now it wants the password. If I use Roboform where I just changed it, it'll tell me the password is incorrect because I changed it in Roboform, but I haven't changed it in Adobe yet. So what I would do now is log in with the old password, go in and change my password. If I had not changed it in Roboform, but I went into Adobe and changed the password, there would be a little bar at the top that would come up and it would ask me, do I want to save this in Roboform and overwrite the old password? And the answer would be yes, I do. So that would be a way of changing the password. Now, looking back again into Roboform, here's another thing that you can see. If I just go to a site and click on Roboform, you notice that it's giving me the suggestion that knows it's Adobe. So I could log in with my Adobe account, or I could log in with Joyce's, which is different. All right, so depending which one I wanted. Now watch what happens. Remember, I changed the password in Roboform, but I haven't changed it in Adobe yet. So I'm on Adobe. If I click Adobe, watch what happens. See, it tells me that the ID and the password don't match. And that's because I only changed the password in Roboform. And sometimes that's a little confusing for people. And people will say to me, if I change my password, like say for my email, do I have to change it in Roboform? Of course you do. Whatever password you're using, it has to match what's in Roboform. So if you change it one place, you have to change it the other place. All right, going back to the Roboform again, just to show you, there's also in Roboform, you can have different profiles. Like you see, I have one for John, which is my main one, and then I have one for Johnny, which is basically a test profile that I use. But you can have Roboform with one family. So for instance, if Joyce and I were both using this computer, we could have a profile. We could have a profile for John and we could have a profile for Joyce. And her master password would be different from mine. And if she didn't want to share that with me, I wouldn't be able to get into her stuff and vice versa. Of course, we always share our passwords because we never know whose computer we're going to be on. But I could set up a separate profile in Roboform if we were both using the same computer. And that's how you do it. Now, another feature that you don't see people use too often, and to be honest with you, I don't use it very often, you can generate passwords. And you can see where it says generate. And if I click on that, it will generate a password for me. And I can copy the new password to the clipboard, and I could use that password on some site. Like if I had to create a new password, let's say I forgot my old one, and then it, when I went through to change it, it said create a new password. I could let Roboform generate that password. And you can see that if you look at it, you can see that it used lowercase alpha, uppercase. It used numbers. It used a symbol, and it mixed everything all up. And that would be a very good password. Now, if you want to allow Roboform to generate your passwords, you can do that. There's only one catch, and that is that this password, like if you look at this one that Roboform generated, you're probably not going to remember that. So the method that we teach, of course, is the FBI method, which is to use a phrase and numbers in between, use the first letter of a phrase. Then that gives you something to remember. But if you don't care about that, the generator is a really neat way of making safe passwords. Another thing that's on this main menu that sometimes people aren't even aware it's there, you can do something called a safe note. And if you click on that, you'll get a menu. You can see that I have 3 test safe notes. I could create a new one. So I'm going to do that so you can see how that works. So you can give it a name, which I'm going to give it test 4. Okay, and then I can tell it, that that's the name. And now I can, oh, I didn't spell test right. How about that? Well, anyway, test 4, this will be. I can put a note in here. This is a top secret note. Okay. And I could put that in there and save that note under Roboform so that if I had a note that I didn't want anyone to get into, this would be a way of protecting it in Roboform. And, part of the, like one of the reasons you might want to do that, like here's an example. We're starting to get close to Christmas time, and I'm trying to make a list of things that I might want to get for Joyce, but I don't want to leave it out in a note someplace where she might just accidentally see it. I put it in here. Now, in truth, she knows my Roboform password. She could go in and look for it if she wanted to. But this is a nice place to keep it out of current view, and I could keep my list in there and do that. And that's called a safe note. So, that's the way that we can do it in there. So that's a safe note, and that's how you do it. Now, safe note was not changed. Do you want to save the changes? I'm going to say yes. And now if I go back to Roboform and go to safe notes, you'll see that I have test 1, the test 2, test 3, and tests without a T 4 because I made the name. Now I could rename it and make it test 4, which is what I wanted in the first place. So now that node is secure and no one is going to be able to see that unless they can get into my Roboform. So there's lots of good features there. Now keep in mind, one of the great things about Roboform is it's across machines. So if you use Roboform on a computer, if you use it on your smartphone or on a smart tablet, everything syncs. So if I change my password for Adobe here on this computer, if a little bit later I go to my iPhone and look, it will have synced and the new Adobe password will be there. So that's a great thing about you don't have to change it every individual place. And that's a way to do it. Okay, so that's Roboform, kind of a quick overview. And again, I tried to show you some features that people aren't necessarily using. Another thing on this drop-down menu, you'll see there's a home, and I can click on that home, and it will bring the same home page that I showed you on the iPhone. It will bring the same home page. It'll show you the logins. It'll show you safe notes. There's my test 4, the most recent one. And I could do bookmarks if I wanted to bookmark. I can bookmark different sites. So the home page will also give you that. And I can search Roboform here. And again, I'm using the John identity. And if I clicked on that, I could switch over to Johnny if I wanted to. Again, the things about Roboform, the questions that I get asked sometimes is people say, well, how do I get my username and password in Roboform to start with? And that's pretty simple. Once you have Roboform installed, if you go to a site that asks you to create a username and password, when you do that, Roboform will come up with a little bar across the top, and it will ask you, do you want to save this? It will suggest a name, and you can change that name if you like. Now, another thing that's confusing sometimes for people, and this is especially true with financial sites. They will go to a financial site, and the financial site will not allow you to click in with Roboform. Reason: a financial site will often have the username on one page. You put that in and click next. Then it will have the password. Then you click that and click next. And sometimes it will have a situation where you have to uh, tell it that you're not a robot. You have to prove that. Well, Roboform can't work around those. It can't automatically fill in that you're not a robot and check out the blocks of street signs or automobiles or storefronts. You have to manually do that. But what Roboform does allow you to do, let's say you go to your financial site, your username is maybe saved already, and you don't even have to type it in. And when you click for the password, if you say, uh-oh, I forgot my password, and Roboform can't fill it in, you just go to Roboform, go to logins, go to edit, and find the site you want to go to. You can reveal the password. You can then copy and paste it into the site. Now, that's a limitation. It has nothing to do with Roboform. That's very much true with almost all password managers. That is a function of the financial sites especially, but there are some others. Carbonite is another one that comes to mind because you do have to prove you're not a robot on Carbonite. And so they are doing that as a security feature. And as much as we would love for Roboform to be able to fill that in, the website prevents that. It's not something wrong with Roboform. It's the website. So once you understand that and realize you can just open logins and edit and get your password, you should be good to go. So that's a kind of another look at Roboform, some different things. And what I'd like you to do is, if you have any questions, would you send an email to john@4kcc.com and in the subject put Roboform. And if you have a question about something I didn't cover or didn't show, let me know. And as I can, we're pretty busy right now, but as I can, I will reply to that. And if it's a question and answer, I think everybody who attended the webinar should hear. I will pass that out in an email to everybody. So that's it for now. Thank you very much and have a good day.